Pick any tube station in London on a Monday morning. Watch the faces. A Nigerian investment banker brushing shoulders with a Polish electrician. A Bengali chef standing next to a Brazilian student. A city where the entire planet shows up for work every single day. More than 300 languages echo through these tunnels. More cultures packed into one postcode than most countries hold within their borders. But strip it all away. Peel back the concrete, the glass towers, the underground, the tarmac. Go deep enough and you hit mud. Cold, river-soaked marshland where nothing stood except reeds and silence. No bridges, no roads, no reason for anyone to stop here. Until someone did. What turned a swamp into the most influential city in modern history? War, greed, genius, catastrophe, and a river that refused to let this place die. We know fragments of this story from crumbling manuscripts, woodcut prints, and archaeological scars buried beneath office blocks. Now, with AI reconstructed imagery drawn from those original historical sources, we can see these vanished worlds as they might have actually appeared. Timber wharves crowded with Roman merchants, Saxon huts glowing with hearth fire, medieval streets so narrow 2 people couldn't walk side by side. You're about to travel through 20 centuries without leaving your seat. This is the story of London, not the polished version they teach in schools, the raw, brutal, astonishing version. Let's begin. It's the spring of 43 AD, and the most powerful military machine on Earth has a logistics problem. Emperor Claudius needs a victory. Back in Rome, people mock him. He stammers, he limps, the Senate thinks he's a fool. Conquering Britain would shut them up permanently. So he sends 4 legions, roughly 20,000 soldiers, across the English Channel. They land in Kent and start pushing northwest. But the Thames blocks their path. It's wide, tidal, dangerous. They need a crossing point.
The current is strong. We must find a ford. Agreed. The maps show one to the east.
Somewhere the river narrows enough for a bridge, but stays deep enough for supply ships to dock. They find exactly one spot. A gravel bank on the south side facing firm ground on the north, right where the river bends. They build their bridge. They build their settlement around it. They call it Londinium. It's not the capital. That honor goes to Colchester. Londinium is just infrastructure, a supply hub, a place where roads meet water. But geography has a funny way of deciding what matters. Within 10 years, every major Roman road in Britain converges here. If you want to move soldiers, grain, iron, or information anywhere in the province, it passes through Londinium. Merchants figure this out fast. Traders from Gaul set up shop along the riverbank. Syrian glassmakers arrive. North African pottery starts appearing in market stalls. Londinium isn't planned as a great city, it just becomes one because everyone needs to be here. Then in 60 AD, a woman nearly erases it from history.
No mercy for the invaders, stick to your Tsars!
Boudicca, queen of the Iceni tribe in what's now Norfolk, has suffered unspeakable cruelty at Roman hands. Her husband died and left his kingdom jointly to his daughters and the emperor. Rome's response was to seize everything, publicly flog Boudicca and assault her daughters. She raises an army estimated at 100,000 and marches south. The Roman governor is away, fighting in Wales. Londinium is essentially undefended. The few hundred soldiers stationed there take one look at the approaching horde and evacuate.
They'll take everything.
Push, my loves, we must go.
The merchants, the settlers, the families who can't move fast enough, they're left behind. Boudicca's army doesn't just capture the town, they annihilate it, every building torched, every Roman sympathizer killed. Archaeologists working beneath modern London have found a distinct layer of reddish-black ash, roughly 18 inches thick. That's Boudicca's signature. The temperature of the fires was so intense, it baked the clay beneath the streets into something resembling brick. Rome eventually crushes the rebellion. Boudicca dies, probably by poison, possibly by her own hand. And then the Romans do what Romans always do. They rebuild, and they build bigger. The new Londinium gets a forum larger than a football pitch, public bathhouses with underfloor heating, an engineering luxury most Londoners won't enjoy again until the 20th century. An amphitheatre seating thousands buried now beneath the Guildhall Art Gallery. If you visit the gallery's basement, you can still see the curved stone walls where Romans watched gladiators fight. By the 2nd century, a massive defensive wall encircles the city. It runs for 3 kilometers, stands 6 meters high, and defines London's boundaries for the next 1400 years. Fragments of it survive today, poking out between office buildings like bones through skin. Londinium at its peak holds maybe 60,000 people. It's the largest city in Britannia and one of the most important trading ports in the Western Empire. And then Rome abandons it. By 410 AD, the empire is hemorrhaging. Visigoths are at the gates of Rome itself. Britain is a distant, expensive, fog-soaked headache. Emperor Honorius sends a letter to the British cities effectively saying, "Defend yourselves." The legions are recalled, the administrators pack up, the money stops. What happens to Londinium next is one of history's strangest disappearances. The city doesn't fall to invasion. It doesn't burn again, it simply empties. Without the Roman trade network, there's no reason for a port. Without Roman currency, there's no way to run an economy. Without Roman engineers, the infrastructure starts to decay. Within 50 years, a city that rivaled many in the empire becomes a ghost town. Roofs collapse inward, roads crack and sprout vegetation. The bathhouses fill with debris, foxes make dens in the forum. For roughly 200 years, one of Europe's great cities sits almost entirely vacant. The river flows past walls that no one guards and gates that no one closes. The people who eventually move into southern Britain are Germanic tribes, Angles, Saxons, Jutes. They cross the North Sea in shallow-keeled boats and settle the English countryside. They're farmers and warriors, not city dwellers. The old Roman ruins genuinely unsettle them. One Anglo-Saxon poem, The Ruin, describes crumbling stone walls and collapsed towers as the work of ancient giants. These newcomers can't fathom that ordinary men built these things. The Saxons don't reoccupy Londinium, they avoid it entirely. Instead, around the 600s, a trading settlement called Londinium appears about a mile upstream, outside the old walls. This is where the Strand and Aldwych sit in modern London. If you're grabbing coffee on the Strand, you're walking on Saxon commercial ground. Londinium grows into a respectable trading town, maybe 8,000 to 10,000 inhabitants at its height.
I'll take 2. Here are the coins.
Amber from Scandinavia, wine from the Rhineland, metalwork from the Frankish kingdoms. It's prosperous enough to attract exactly the wrong kind of attention. Viking longships start appearing on the Thames in the late 700s. The Norse raids begin as smash and grab operations. sail upriver, hit the settlement, grab valuables, leave before anyone organizes a defense. But each raid gets bolder. In 842, a Viking fleet devastates Londinium. In 851, a force described as 350 ships returns and does it again. The Saxons keep rebuilding, and the Vikings keep burning it down. Enter Alfred, King of Wessex, the only English monarch ever called the Great, and the title isn't flattery. By 886, Alfred has fought the Danes to a standstill. He recaptures London and makes a decision that reshapes the city's future. Instead of rebuilding Londinium in its exposed riverside position, he moves the entire population back behind the old Roman walls. The ancient fortifications that had stood empty for 4 centuries suddenly have a purpose again. Alfred repairs the walls, clears the streets inside them, establishes a new street grid. The resettled city is called Londonburg, London Fortress. Londinium is abandoned. Over time, its name mutates into Ealdwick, the old settlement. Say it fast and you get Aldwick, the crescent-shaped street that still exists today, a linguistic fossil from a city that vanished over 1,000 years ago. For the next century and a half, London grows steadily under alternating Saxon and Danish rulers. In 1016, Canute the Great, a Danish king, takes the English throne and makes London his power base. The city's commercial importance is now undeniable. Whoever controls London effectively controls England's economy. Then comes a decision that will split London's identity in two for the next millennium. Edward the Confessor becomes king in 1042. He's deeply religious, half Norman by upbringing, and not entirely comfortable in the loud mercantile chaos of the city. So he focuses his energy upstream at Westminster, building a grand abbey on marshy ground beside the river. He also constructs a royal palace nearby. This creates a permanent duality. The City of London handles trade and money. Westminster handles God and government. 2 centres of power, 2 miles apart, never fully merging. That split is still visible today. The City of London has its own mayor, its own police force, its own ancient laws. Westminster has Parliament and the Crown. This wasn't planned. It's an accident of one king's personal preference 1,000 years ago. Edward dies in January 1066 without an heir, and England plunges into the most consequential succession crisis in its history. Harold Godwinson, the most powerful English nobleman, grabs the crown. But William, Duke of Normandy, insists Edward promised the throne to him. And Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, figures he might as well try his luck too. Harold defeats the Norwegians at Stamford Bridge in Yorkshire on September 25th. 3 days later, William lands on the south coast with roughly 7,000 men. Harold's force marches his battered army 250 miles south in less than 2 weeks. They meet at a hill near Hastings on October 14th. By evening, Harold is dead, an arrow in his eye if the Bayeux Tapestry is to be believed. The English army shatters. William marches on London but doesn't attack directly. He circles the city, burning the surrounding countryside, cutting supply lines, letting fear do the work. London submits without a fight. On Christmas Day, 1066, William is crowned at Westminster Abbey.
The glory of God, O God. May you rule with wisdom and justice.
The Norman guards outside, hearing loud shouts of acclamation from within, assume a riot has broken out and start setting fire to nearby buildings.
We must retreat!
The smoke, we can't breathe!
The fire is spreading!
William is crowned amid smoke and screaming, an appropriate beginning for what comes next. William doesn't trust the English, especially not Londoners, who submitted only when they had no other choice. He builds the Tower of London on the city's eastern edge, a massive stone keep designed to intimidate. The White Tower rises 27 meters high, with walls nearly 4 meters thick at the base. It's constructed from pale cayenne stone, imported from Normandy, visually alien against the wooden English buildings surrounding it. The message is unmistakable. We are here. We are permanent. Do not test us. Medieval London under Norman and later Plantagenet rule becomes one of the wealthiest cities in Europe, though you wouldn't necessarily want to live there. Streets are narrow, unpaved, and running with filth. Houses are timber-framed, crammed together, upper stories jutting outward until buildings on opposite sides of a lane nearly kiss. There's no sanitation system. Waste gets thrown into the street or into the river. Butchers dump offal directly into the Thames. The air is thick, with the smell of tanning leather, wood smoke, brewing ale, and human waste. But the money is extraordinary. London's merchant guilds become power brokers.
Indeed, but we must reinvest in more ships. Agreed. The ledgers show clear gains.
The worshipful company of goldsmiths, the fishmongers, the drapers, the mercers. These aren't quaint traditions. They're economic cartels controlling who can trade and at what price.
The crown needs funds, Your Majesty.
They grow wealthy enough to finance kings and bold enough to defy them.
Name your terms. The kingdom's fate hangs in the balance. My terms are steep.
In 1215, when rebellious barons corner King John and force him to seal the Magna Carta at Runnymede, London's support is decisive. The city militia opens the gates to the rebel barons and effectively holds the capital hostage until John agrees. In return, London secures written guarantees of self-governance that survive in modified form to this day. The City of London Corporation can trace its continuous existence back to this period, making it one of the oldest functioning democratic institutions on the planet. London Bridge, rebuilt in stone between 1176 and 1209, becomes one of the most extraordinary structures in medieval Europe.
Fresh bread today?
It's not just a bridge. It's an entire neighborhood suspended over water.
For you, 9 pence. Done.
Over 200 buildings stand on it, shops and houses rising as high as 7 stories. There's a chapel dedicated to Thomas Becket at its center. A drawbridge section can be raised to let tall ships through or to seal the city from southern attack. At the Southwark Gate, traitors' heads are mounted on iron spikes as decoration. William Wallace's head sits up there after 1305, Thomas More's after 1535. It remains London's only river crossing for over 6 centuries. In 1348, death arrives by sea. Ships docking at London's wharves carry rats. The rats carry fleas. The fleas carry Yersinia pestis. The Black Death. Nobody understands what's happening. Physicians blame bad air, planetary alignments, divine punishment. Nothing works. People die within days of showing symptoms. Swollen lymph nodes the size of eggs, blackened skin, fever, delirium, then nothing. At its worst, London is losing hundreds of people per day. The graveyards overflow within weeks. Mass burial pits are dug outside the city walls, some discovered only recently during construction projects like Crossrail.
From the plague. Incredible. Right where they said.
Between 1348 and 1350, somewhere between a third and half of London's population dies. A city that had reached perhaps 80,000 people is suddenly hollow. Houses stand empty. Workshops fall silent. The price of labor skyrockets because there aren't enough living workers. The survivors, though, begin demanding something radical. Better wages. Better conditions. If labor is scarce, workers have leverage, and they intend to use it. This tension explodes in 1381. Wat Tyler leads thousands of peasants and workers into London.
On to the gates! This ends now!
No more lies!
Furious about a new poll tax and decades of legal oppression. They burn the Savoy Palace, the grandest private residence in England. They storm the Tower of London
No, this
and drag out the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Lord Treasurer and behead them on Tower Hill.
The people demand justice,
The 14-year-old
sire. End
King
the poll
Richard
tax.
II
Your grievance
rides
is
out
heard.
to meet them at
But I am
Smithfield.
king. Your word is not enough. We
Tyler
need action.
presents
And you
demands.
shall have it.
During the negotiations, the Lord Mayor of London stabs Tyler.
King,
Tyler
lay down your
dies.
arms.
Richard
Sire, the
persuades the
taxes.
crowd to
Your
disperse
grievances
with
will be
promises
heard.
he never
No
intends to
more
keep. The peasants' revolt fails in its immediate goals. Its leaders are hunted down and executed. But something has shifted permanently. The ruling class has seen what happens when ordinary Londoners organise and march. That memory lingers in the city's DNA, surfacing again and again across the centuries. By the early 1500s, London has recovered to around 50,000 people. Then it enters a period of growth so explosive it transforms not just the city, but the entire country. Henry VIII's break with Rome in the 1530s is usually told as a story about divorce and religion. But in London, it's a story about real estate. When Henry dissolves the monasteries, he seizes enormous tracts of urban land that religious orders had held for centuries. Priories, abbeys, friaries, their gardens, orchards and farmland. Suddenly all of it is for sale. Wealthy families and ambitious developers buy it up and
Foundations are
build.
set. We build for
London
prosperity.
gains room
I
to
say,
breathe
the walls
and begins
will rise
spreading
strong.
beyond its ancient
Good.
walls
The
for the
city
first
grows
time.
beyond these walls.
Under Elizabeth I, the city's population surges past 200,000. The South Bank becomes London's entertainment district,
Come one, come all.
a place
The greatest
technically
player
outside
waits.
the city's jurisdiction,
players,
where
sirs,
theatres,
madams,
bear-baiting pits, and brothels flourish side by side.
The stage calls.
The Globe Theatre opens in 1599. Shakespeare's company stages plays there for audiences that include everyone from groundlings paying a penny to stand in the yard to nobles watching from cushioned galleries. Hamlet, Othello, King Lear. The greatest works in the English language, first performed in a wooden ring beside the Thames. Meanwhile, London's merchant class is laying the foundations of global empire. The East India Company receives its royal charter in 1600. The Virginia Company will fund the Jamestown settlement in 1607. These aren't government projects, they're business ventures, financed by London investors, departing from London docks, with profits flowing back to London counting houses. Empire doesn't begin with flags and armies, it begins with ledgers and ships. But London in the 1600s is also a death trap hiding in plain sight. The city is built almost entirely of wood, oak frames, timber walls, thatch roofs. Houses are packed so tightly that sunlight barely reaches street level. Every home has open flames for cooking and heating. Tallow candles drip animal fat. Workshops handle flammable materials daily. There's no organized firefighting capability beyond bucket chains and prayer. In 1665, plague returns. Not the same strain as the Black Death, but equally merciless.
Bring out your dead.
It moves through the overcrowded parishes of the poor first. Doors of infected houses are marked with a red cross and the words, "Lord have mercy upon us." Entire families are sealed inside to die or recover, usually die.
Mama, I'm scared. Why can't we leave? Stay strong for your father.
At the epidemic's peak during the summer, the bills of mortality records 7,000 deaths per week. Anyone with money has already fled to the countryside. The poor have nowhere to go. By the time the plague recedes in early 1666, roughly 100,000 Londoners are dead. 1 in 4. The city is traumatized, exhausted, depleted. Then on September 2nd, 1666, around 1 in the morning, a fire ignites in Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane. The summer has been bone dry. An easterly wind is blowing hard. The fire jumps from building to building along streets so narrow that flames leap across them like stepping stones. The Lord Mayor is woken and brought to the scene. His assessment becomes one of history's great misjudgments. A woman could piss it out, he reportedly says, and goes back to bed. By dawn, the fire is beyond control. It burns for 4 days. It consumes everything inside the old city walls and much beyond. 13,000 houses, 87 churches. St. Paul's Cathedral, where the lead roof melts and flows down Ludgate Hill in a molten river. The heat is so intense that stones explode and the ground remains too hot to walk on for days afterward. The death toll is astonishingly low, officially just 6, though the true number among the poor and undocumented is certainly higher. But 100,000 people are homeless, camped in fields outside the city, watching smoke rise from everything they owned. Christopher Wren, Robert Hooke and John Evelyn all submit plans for a rationally redesigned city. Grand boulevards, classical symmetry, open plazas. It's a beautiful idea and completely impractical. Property ownership within the charred ruins is a maze of overlapping claims, ancient rights, and legal chaos. Rebuilding the same footprint is complicated enough. Redesigning the layout entirely is impossible. So London is rebuilt largely on its medieval street plan. But the building codes change fundamentally. Brick and stone replace timber. Overhanging upper floors are banned. Party walls between buildings become mandatory. The London that rises from the ashes is still cramped and chaotic, but it's far less likely to burn. Wren does get his masterpiece. The new St. Paul's Cathedral takes 35 years to complete, from 1675 to 1710. Its dome becomes the defining feature of London's skyline for the next 2.5 centuries. Unchallenged in height until the 1960s. It's the building that will stand defiant amid firebombs during the Blitz. The photograph that will symbolize London's refusal to break. The 18th century turns London into the command center of global commerce.
This tariff will stifle our trade with the
Coffee houses multiply across the city, and each one becomes an informal headquarters for a different industry.
Let us draw the papers. Agreed.
Edward Lloyd's Coffee House on Tower Street is where ship captains, merchants and underwriters gather to negotiate insurance on maritime voyages. It evolves into Lloyd's of London. Jonathan's Coffee House in Exchange Alley is where stockbrokers meet to buy and sell shares. It becomes the London Stock Exchange. These institutions aren't founded by royal decree. They grow organically from caffeine-fueled conversations between men trying to make money. In 1735, Robert Walpole establishes 10 Downing Street as the Prime Minister's official residence. George III acquires Buckingham House in 1761. Westminster Bridge opens in 1750, giving London its first new Thames crossing since the medieval London Bridge. The city is expanding in every direction. Georgian terraces push west into Mayfair and north into Bloomsbury. Squares and crescents impose order on what had been open fields. After Waterloo in 1815, Britain is the dominant global power and London is its beating heart. Money from every corner of the empire flows through the city's banks and trading houses. Sugar from the Caribbean, cotton from India, tea from China, gold from wherever gold is found. The docks expand relentlessly. The West India Docks, the East India Docks, the Surrey Commercial Docks. London's waterfront becomes the busiest port complex in the world. Then the 19th century arrives, and London undergoes the most dramatic transformation since the Romans first drove stakes into the riverbed. The population in 1801 is just over 1 million. By 1851, it's 2.5 million. By 1901, 6.5 million. London is the largest city the world has ever seen. The scale of Victorian building is staggering. Trafalgar Square takes shape in the 1840s, anchored by Nelson's column. 52 meters of Portland stone commemorating the admiral who died defeating Napoleon's fleet. The Houses of Parliament rise between 1840 and 1870, after fire destroys the old Palace of Westminster. Charles Barry designs the exterior, Augustus Pugin handles the Gothic Revival interiors. The clock tower, later named the Elizabeth Tower, houses Big Ben, the great bell whose chime becomes the sound of London itself. In 1851, Prince Albert champions the Great Exhibition in Hyde Park. Joseph Paxton designs the Crystal Palace, an enormous greenhouse-like structure of iron and glass covering 19 acres. 6 million visitors come to marvel at industrial machinery, colonial goods, and technological wonders. It's Britain's moment of supreme self-confidence, the empire displayed under glass for the world to admire. But walk half a mile east from Hyde Park, and the picture changes violently. Victorian London is two cities occupying the same space. The West End has gas lighting, wide streets, parks and servants. The East End has overcrowded tenements, open sewers, child labour and gin. Cholera epidemics in 1832, 1849, 1854 and 1806 of thousands, overwhelmingly in poor neighbourhoods. The prevailing medical theory blames miasma, bad air. In 1854, a physician named John Snow maps cholera cases in Soho and traces them to a single contaminated water pump on Broad Street. It's a landmark moment in epidemiology, proving the disease spreads through water, not smell. The pump handle is removed, the deaths slow. The Thames itself is a sewer. In the summer of 1858, the stench from the river is so unbearable that Parliament hangs lime-soaked curtains over its windows and seriously considers relocating. This is the Great Stink, and it finally forces action. Joseph Basil Jett engineers a monumental sewer system. Over 1,300 miles of tunnels channeling waste away from the river and downstream to treatment facilities. The system works so well that significant parts of it remain in use today. Basil Jett also builds the Thames embankments, reclaiming land from the river and creating the Victoria, Albert and Chelsea embankments that define the modern riverfront. In 1863, the world's first underground railway opens between Paddington and Farringdon. Passengers ride in open-topped carriages through tunnels filled with steam and smoke. It's uncomfortable, disorienting, and wildly popular. The tube network will grow to become the circulatory system of the entire city. Tower Bridge opens in 1894, a drawbridge disguised as Gothic towers, designed to harmonise with the nearby Tower of London. Its bascules can lift to allow tall ships through, a concession to the still thriving port. Robert Peel establishes the Metropolitan Police in 1829, the first modern professional police force. Officers are nicknamed Bobbies after him. In 1888, a serial killer called Jack the Ripper murders at least 5 women in Whitechapel. He's never identified.
This fog swallows everything.
The case becomes a grim symbol of the East End's dangers and the limits of Victorian policing.
We're out of our depth. We press on. Answers must be here.
Charles Dickens captures all of it. Oliver Twist, Bleak House, Great Expectations. The workhouses, the debtors' prisons, the gap between the empire's wealth and its people's poverty. Dickens doesn't just describe London, he makes the world see it honestly. The 20th century shatters London's confidence. The First World War drains Britain of a generation. Nearly 1 million British soldiers die.
Goodbye, everyone.
And although London's buildings survive, its families don't. Every street, every parish, every school loses sons. The memorials go up everywhere, stone crosses and bronze plaques that still dot the city. The interwar years bring economic hardship and political unrest. The general strike of 1926 paralyzes the city. The Great Depression hits hard. But nothing prepares London for what comes on September 7th, 1940. The Blitz. "300 German bombers, escorted by 600 fighters, appear over London in the late afternoon. They bomb the docks first, then the East End, then everywhere. The raids continue for 57 consecutive nights, then intermittently for months afterward, until May 1941. Entire neighborhoods vanish. The city burns again, echoing 1666, but this time from above. Incendiary bombs set fire to blocks at a time. High explosive bombs crater streets and collapse buildings. Over 1 million London homes are damaged or destroyed. Around 30,000 Londoners die.
Keep searching.
But St. Paul's survives. On the night of December 29, 1940, incendiary bombs rain on the area around the cathedral. Volunteer firefighters on the roof extinguish everyone that lands. The photograph taken that night, the dome rising intact above walls of smoke and flame, becomes the defining image of London's resilience. The underground stations become shelters. Every night, hundreds of thousands of Londoners descend into the tube to sleep on platforms while bombs fall above. It's miserable, crowded, and unsanitary. It's also a demonstration of collective endurance that passes into national mythology. Post-war London is a city running on fumes. The empire is dissolving. India goes in 1947. Palestine in 1948. Colony after colony follows. The economic engine that fueled London's growth for 2 centuries is shutting down. Rationing continues well into the 1950s. Bomb sites sit undeveloped for years, becoming improvised playgrounds and gardens. In December 1952, a temperature inversion traps coal smoke over the city for 5 days. The Great Smog is so thick that people cannot see their own feet. Buses are abandoned. Pedestrians walk into the Thames. Between 4,000 and 12,000 people die from respiratory failure, many of them elderly or already ill. It's the deadliest air pollution event in recorded history, and it leads directly to the Clean Air Act of 1956, banning coal fires in urban areas.
This is a symbolic moment for London's future.
But even as London struggles, it's being transformed by new arrivals. In June 1948, the Empire Windrush docks at Tilbury, carrying 492 passengers from Jamaica. They've come to fill labour shortages in post-war Britain. They are the
also
first
green.
wave of what becomes massive
Fill these
Commonwealth
forms,
immigration.
please. Be clear. Transport is outside. Follow the signs.
Over the following decades, communities from the Caribbean, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Hong Kong, Cyprus, and East Africa put down roots across London. They faced discrimination, hostility, and terrible housing conditions. They build communities anyway. Brixton becomes the heart of Caribbean London. Southall becomes a centre of Punjabi culture. Brick Lane transforms from a Jewish neighbourhood into a Bangladeshi one, each wave of immigrants literally rewriting the street signs. These communities don't just add diversity, they reshape what London is. The 1960s brings swinging London, the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks.
This street is alive with it.
Carnaby Street and the King's Road. Mary Quant's miniskirts.
Pure mod genius. You wear it brilliantly.
Cheers, love.
For a brief, exhilarating moment, London is the coolest city on earth. Youth culture, fashion, music and art converge in a creative explosion that broadcasts worldwide. The following decades are harder. Economic stagnation. Industrial decline. The Troubles bring era bombs to London streets. In the early 1980s, the Docklands are derelict, the East End neglected, unemployment brutal. Then Margaret Thatcher's deregulation of financial markets in 1986, the Big Bang, transforms the City of London. American and international banks pour in. Canary Wharf rises from the ruins of the old West India docks. A cluster of steel and glass towers in a place where ships once unloaded sugar and rum. London reinvents itself as a global financial centre, competing directly with New York and Tokyo. The 21st century accelerates everything. The Millennium Dome opens in Greenwich on New Year's Eve 1999 to widespread ridicule. It eventually finds purpose as the O2 Arena. The July 7th bombings in 2005 kill 52 people on buses and tube trains, the deadliest terrorist attack in London's modern history. The city mourns, then carries on. It's a reflex by now. The 2012 Olympics land in Stratford, transforming a neglected corner of East London into parkland, housing and sporting venues. The population surpasses 9 million for the first time, exceeding its pre-war peak. Modern London is defined by contradictions. Extraordinary wealth and grinding poverty separated by a single street. Glass towers casting shadows over Victorian terraces. A housing market so inflated that essential workers commute 2 hours each way. A cultural richness so dense you could spend a lifetime exploring it and never reach the edges. The Shard, the Gherkin, the walkie-talkie, the cheese grater. The skyline reinvents itself every few years, each new tower sparking fresh arguments between those who want to preserve and those who want to build.
Preserving, that sign demands full conservation, not this.
It's a debate that's been happening since Wren proposed his post-fire master plan and was told no. 2,000 years. Roman engineers, Saxon farmers, Viking raiders, Norman conquerors, medieval merchants, Tudor playwrights.
This design will shape the empire.
Georgian architects, Victorian engineers, Blitz survivors, Windrush pioneers.
A new life awaits.
Every generation adds a layer, and no layer ever fully disappears. Dig beneath any London street and you're cutting through time itself. This city has burned, drowned, sickened, starved, been bombed from the sky and attacked from within. And every single time, it has rebuilt. Not because of some grand plan, not because anyone designed it this way, but because a river runs through a particular stretch of lowland. and once people gather at a river crossing, they never entirely leave. That's London. Stubborn, chaotic, magnificent, maddening. 2,000 years old and still figuring itself out. Thanks for watching. Researching and writing scripts like this takes an enormous amount of time and effort, pulling together centuries of history into a single narrative. If you found this journey through London's past worthwhile, I'd be grateful if you hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the cities and civilizations that shaped our world. Drop a comment telling me which city you'd like to see next. Until then, we'll see you in the past.